Keeping in line with the theme for today's service, I'm going to invite you to close your eyes and picture these words written by John Muir as I read them. Visualize this. Climb the mountains and get their good tidings. Nature's peace will flow into you as the sunshine flows into trees. The wind will blow their own freshness into you, and the storms their energy, while cares will drift off like autumn leaves.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
On behalf of the entire congregation, I welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Shenandoah Valley. I'm Leslie Blackburn, your worship associate for today's service. Our guest speaker is Reverend Leah Carlton DeLong, a retired United Methodist pastor serving rural congregations for over 20 years. She graduated from Seton Hall University with a degree in biology. And after raising 2 children, she completed a Master of Divinity degree at Wesley Theological Seminary in Washington, D.C. In retirement, she enjoys gardening, tending houseplants, monitoring bluebird nest boxes at Blandy Experimental Farm, Belgrove, and her backyard, and sewing, especially quilting. She recently returned to making baskets after a 30-year hiatus. She shares a home in Middletown with Dana and 2 husky mixed dogs, Balto and Jasper. We wish to acknowledge that we are on the traditional lands of the Shawnee and the Manahoac tribes who lived in this area prior to the arrival of European settlers who then took the land for their own. We gather with our doubts as well as our convictions, with our fears and our hopes, with our failures and our aspirations, with our sorrows and our joys. Whether you're joining us today for the first time or you've been a member or a friend for many years, we're glad you are here. Whatever faiths you have known, if any, whatever your background, whoever you are, whomever you love, however you have arrived here, you are welcome. Now, as Alice Urban comes forward to light the chalice, let us all say together here and online the words for lighting our chalice. In the light of truth and in the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, to share. And I invite you to join with us as we say our covenant. Love is the spirit of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament. To dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, and to help our neighbor. To these ends, we covenant one with another. Please stand in body or spirit as we sing our opening hymn, The Lone Wild Bird, number 15 in the gray hymnal.
Hear and delight in these words written by Mary Oliver. When I am among the trees, especially the willows and the honey locust, equally the beech, the oaks, and the pines, they give off such hints of gladness. I would almost say that they save me, and daily. I am so distant from the hope of myself, in which I have goodness and discernment, and never hurry through the world, but walk slowly and bow often. Around me, the trees stir in their leaves and call out, "Stay a while." The light flows from their branches, and they call again. "It's simple," they say, "and you too have come into the world to do this, to go easy, to be filled with light, and to shine."
It's time for children of all ages.
If you'd like to come up and sit on the quilt. Good morning. All right. So today we're talking about trees. And this book is about a young man who loved trees. And he saw that trees were getting destroyed where he lived. And he wanted to do something about it. This is the true story of Jadav Payeng, the boy who grew a forest. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time to plant a tree is now. That's a proverb. In India, on a large river island, among farms and families hard at work, there lived a boy who loved trees. Trees meant shade and food and shelter for many. But each rainy season, floodwaters swallowed more and more of the beautiful tree-covered land. The boy's precious island was shrinking, eroding away with the rushing river, leaving empty sandbars behind. So the more water that was coming was eating away at the land and pulling all the dirt in, and the water is becoming muddy. See how it's darker? The boy witnessed animals stranded on those sandbars, their homes destroyed. He feared that if animals withered without trees, people would too. So all the animals don't have a home because their trees are destroyed. Good morning. The boy shared his fears with the village. The elders explained that the only way to help animals was to create new homes for them. They gifted the boy with 20 bamboo saplings. Does anybody know what a sapling is? A baby tree, yep, that's it. So they gave him 20 baby trees. Alone, he canoed down the muddy river. He wished he could cover all the land with trees, but a large sandbar nearby was a place to start. The land was too barren for animals, the shores too sandy for leafy trees. Would the bamboo grow? The boy hoped. So he wasn't sure, but he hoped. Determined, he began to plant 1 shaft, 2, then 3. Every day, he watered the saplings by hand, sweat trickling down his face and chest. He built a watering system to help and lugged heavy buckets from the river. His arms grew tired, his back was sore. Still, each day, he tended to the plants, and over time, the bamboo patch grew. He's working so hard. It grew into a healthy thicket. The boy was proud of his work, but he worried it wouldn't be enough to stop the swelling river or to provide shelter for animals. If he wanted more plants to grow, he would have to create richer soil. And soil is the dirt that the trees grow in. And if it's richer, does anybody know what that means? They'll grow bigger. So the richer soil has more food in it for the plants. Wait till you hear what the food is. The boy carried cow dung, earthworms, termites, and angry red ants that bit him on the journey to their new home. Because the ants and the worms are helping the soil, right? Decomposing, yes. He brought seeds from neighboring villages over trails, through the brush, down the river. Each day he planted. As years passed and the boy grew, so did a forest. 10 acres, 20 acres, then 40. Remember when they were just little saplings? And now there's different kinds of trees because he went to the neighboring villages and collected some seeds from them too, not just the bamboo. Wildlife returned for the first time in many years. Buffalo, one-horned rhinos, and snakes, gibbons, migratory birds, and elephants. The man's forest teemed with life and diversity. Not everyone was happy. Fear swept over the villages when the tigers arrived. So the man planted more grasses to attract small animals that would keep the tigers happy in the forest. Elephants wandered into the neighboring farms to feast on the crops. So the man planted more fruiting trees to help feed the hungry elephants. So now the elephants can eat in the forest and not come into the village and eat the villagers' food. Some wanted to harvest the forest to build homes, but the man was there to plant anew. Others tried to hunt the animals for their horns and fur, but the man was there to protect. He's very brave. Few thought the forest would last, but the man believed in its strength. Now, in India, on a large river island, among wildlife and trees as tall as buildings, there lives a man who has planted a forest. The forest is called Malai, after a man named Jadav Malai Payeng, who never stopped planting and pruning and protecting. And this is a quote, so this is something that he said: "Only by growing plants, the earth will survive." So even though there might be things people are doing to destroy parts of our planet and nature, there are things people can do to help restore it. And today, we're going to go to the classroom, and then we're going to go out on our nature trail and see what kind of trees we can find.
Does anybody else want to join them? I think I'd like to go. Oh my. Have you ever been to a retreat or a similar gathering of people who didn't know each other? And then there was this icebreaker question designed to help you get to know each other just a little bit better? A conversation starter? At Christian gatherings, the most used icebreaker question is, what's your favorite Bible verse? And I always like to observe people because you could tell there were some people who said, I don't read the Bible. And then there were people who just said, what's that short verse? Jesus wept. Anyway, So at one retreat, my response was the verse from Jeremiah. Oh, I didn't read it. I needed to read it. A reflection. Those who trust in the Lord, from Jeremiah 17, Hebrew Bible. Those who trust in the Lord will be like trees planted by the streams, whose roots reach down to the water. They won't fear drought when it comes. Their leaves will remain green. They won't be stressed in times of drought or fail to bear fruit. I like that verse because it tells of healthy, strong, fruitful trees. And it says we can be like that too. We can be just like that. Now, I want you to consider the context of Jeremiah before we go much further. Jeremiah was a prophet who witnessed the destruction of an old historic building that had great meaning to his people. Does that sound familiar at all? The raised building was the temple in Jerusalem, and many people, a select group, were deported to a country far away. This was a time of exile and hopelessness. And his message to those in exile, to those left with the rubble of the temple, was to keep the faith and be strong like a healthy tree, withstanding every hardship. He was saying, hang in there. You can get through this. I find hope in this verse today. When all seems lost, when I cannot see a way forward, I must hold on to what I believe is good and true. And I picture myself as a tree, nourished and strong, withstanding every hardship, bearing fruit. And I know I will survive. We will survive. Trees have always been important to me. There's a favorite Sunday school story from the New Testament about a short man named Zacchaeus who climbed a sycamore tree so that he could see Jesus among a big crowd. And when Jesus saw him up that tree, he said, "Zacchaeus, come down, I want to spend the day with you." And he didn't ask anybody from the crowd to spend the day with him, but the man who was up in the tree. The sycamore tree story of Zacchaeus tells me that Jesus had a fondness for tree climbers. I kind of like that because my mother had lots of stories of climbing trees, one of which ended up in an emergency room. Or perhaps maybe Jesus had a fondness for tree climbers, but also a fondness for people who were willing to look at things from a different perspective. I like that too. It's the sycamore tree that summons memories of my grandfather, the one who told me the true name of the tree that I called the puzzle tree. As a 3-year-old, I called it the puzzle tree because I thought the bark looked like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. One of the largest trees on the East Coast, the sycamore, is the host for at least 9 different species of native insects. If the sycamores are removed for progress or expansion, we will lose not only the trees, but the insects that solely depend on them. And no child will ever again say, "Look, Grandpa, there's a puzzle tree." Trees give rise to memories. Decades ago, my mother, my infant sister, and I visited my grandmother on her front porch. Quite suddenly, a strong wind stirred up all the pine trees around my grandmother's house, and they swayed and they bent at an alarming angle that was frightening to me. My mother said, "We need to hurry home and to get home before the storm got any worse." It was only about a 2-mile drive. We made it home very quickly, but by the time we arrived, the storm had ended, and there was no rain, no hail, just that wind, short and sweet. Well, I was home, the weather looked favorable, and I asked my mom if I could go outside and swing. Swinging is my favorite. I love to swing, and if it's not from a tree, it's a porch swing. And if I can't swing, I want to be in a rocking chair. I love that movement of the swing. So I walked through the yard. I opened the rusty gate that led to a pasture field. My swing consisted of a well-worn board with 2 holes drilled through each end, thick ropes threaded through, secured by knots underneath. The other ends of the rope looped around a thick branch of a big black cherry tree. As I approached my swing, I was disoriented. I was confused, and I noticed on the ground the ropes of my swing still attached to the board. And on top of that was the branch of the cherry tree. In fact, the whole tree had fallen during the storm. Frightened, I ran back to the house. I told my parents what had happened, and I remember my dad saying, "It's a good thing no cows were in that pasture field." And my 5-year-old mind knew better than to speak it out loud, but I thought, it's a good thing I wasn't in that pasture field. Trees are flexible. They bend in the wind. Trees fall down, and they die from things beyond their control. During my first week working at Shenandoah National Park, 1980, one of the rangers took me on a hike to introduce me to the area. We went off trail for a bit, and he pointed out an old, dead, fallen branch that was light gray in color, maybe almost white. And he told me that this branch was one of the very few remnants of the American chestnut tree. The trees in their heyday were massive, known as the redwoods of the East. They produced nuts that had high nutritional value for humans and animals. The wood was rot resistant, making it ideal for lumber, and it was fast growing. Cutting trees for lumber didn't deplete the species. Native people used and utilized that tree and depended on it. But late 1800s, an invasive fungus blight from Asia killed the trees. By 1950, there were no living chestnut trees, except the fungus cannot kill the underground root system. So there would be stumps of dead trees and new growth coming from saplings from that stump. But as soon as they got so big, they were infected by the fungus again and fell victim to the blight. This cycle of death and rebirth has kept the species alive, sorta, but it is considered functionally extinct. No tree can ever mature to produce fruit. But the good news is that for the past 40 years, scientists have been working to create a blight-resistant American chestnut tree, locally at Sky Meadows and Blandy. We're not there quite yet, but there's hope. I have hope. A recent trip to Shenandoah National Park reminded me of other dead or dying trees. Spongy moths, formerly known as gypsy moths, an invasive insect from Europe, killed many oak trees in certain areas. Fortunately, not all of the oak trees died. Ash trees stand like skeletons, victims of the emerald ash borer, an invasive from Asia in the 1980s. Currently, and this breaks my heart, at least 95% of the park's hemlock trees have succumbed to the woolly adelgid, a tiny invasive insect from Asia. We understand the impact of the deforestation of the rainforest and how that can be related to climate change, all those trees, all those big trees. But researchers are finding that the hemlock woolly adelgid infestation in the Appalachians, the Blue Ridge, it is already rapidly impacting the carbon cycle in our own backyards. Trees die. No matter how tall or how wide, trees die. And sometimes we are the cause of death when we introduce native species, when we clear forests for profit. A tree's death can have a big impact on us. So far, I've shared a few personal stories about trees, so how about a parable? A parable is a little different from a story. Here's a parable from the Gospel of Luke. A man owned a fig tree planted in his vineyard. He came looking for fruit on it and found none. He said to the gardener, "Look, I've come looking for fruit on this tree for the past 3 years, and I've never found any. Cut it down. Why should it continue depleting the soil's nutrients?" And the gardener responded, "Lord, give it 1 more year, and I will dig around it and give it fertilizer. Maybe it will produce fruit next year. And then, if not, then you can cut it down." The end. If this was a story, you would expect an ending. Parables don't always have endings. A parable is a lot like a choose-your-own-adventure book. A year passed and the tree was filled with figs. I could choose that one. I like that one. Or a year passed and there was no figs and the tree was chopped down. We don't know. But that's not the point of the parable. The parable offers a lesson, and the lesson here is that the fig tree, like the fig tree, all of us need a second chance. We need someone to care for us and nurture and encourage us and forgive us. And there's hope in second chances. Here's another story about second chances and survival. 45 years ago, I planted a ginkgo tree in my front yard. I became fascinated with the ginkgo tree when I discovered a grove of them on my college campus. I spent a lot of time in that grove. I remember the golden leaves dropping in November, and I remember the horrible smell of the fruit that the female trees dropped. Have you ever smelled that? It's bad. Anyway, you see, ginkgo trees are dioecious, meaning that there's a separate male tree and female tree. Males produce pollen, female trees produce fruit. Now, a tree like a maple tree has both male and female parts on the same tree, but not the ginkgo. When I ordered my ginkgo from the nursery, I was assured that they only sold male cultivars grafted onto rootstock. And that's what I wanted to hear, because I did not want a stinky fruit tree in my front yard. Okay, that was 45 years ago. Fast forward, 1 year ago. My son calls me and says, "Mom, the fruit from this ginkgo tree stinks. And there are little seedlings coming up all over the place." I said, "That's impossible because it's a male tree." He said, "Mom, it's possible. It's here." The tree produced fruit for the first time in 44 years, and the tree reaches sexual maturity in about 20 years. What's going on? Well, I was baffled. I thought, okay. Well, a couple of months ago, I was listening to a podcast called The Black Forager. She's hilarious. Listen, watch. And she talks about foraging in the wild and what you can eat and what you shouldn't and what you can touch and what you shouldn't. I love her. But, so this one day, she was talking about ginkgo trees, and that caught my attention really, really fast. And she mentioned that, sometimes there are male trees and female trees. She mentioned the stink. And she said sometimes that if one of the ginkgo trees is stressed, if a male ginkgo tree is stressed, it will produce fruit on one branch or maybe a few branches, and sometimes the entire tree. Oh my, was my tree stressed? Well, yeah, we've had a drought for the past couple of years. And I think that tree responded by producing fruit in an effort to keep the species alive. Survival of the species. Who knew a tree can change gender? Quoting a favorite line from a favorite movie, Jurassic Park, life finds a way. And by the way, ginkgo trees were around thousands of years before dinosaurs. We know that from fossil evidence. And some ginkgo trees even survived the atomic bomb. Life finds a way. There are other stories I'd like to tell you. I'd love to tell you the story about how I stole a tiny hemlock tree from Shenandoah National Park, which was totally illegal. and planted it at home. It was growing on a trail, and if I hadn't taken it out, somebody would have stepped on it. I saved its life, okay? Took it home, I planted it. 45 years later, it's still growing, and there's no sign of the woolly adelgid. Life finds a way. And then there's a story of walking in an old-growth forest recently and then stopping suddenly because I realized I could breathe easily. My diseased lungs felt completely well, just like the old me. Life finds a way. It didn't last long. You know, I began by reading Jeremiah's words to the exiles, and we know how that story ended. 70 years later, the children and grandchildren of the exiles returned to Jerusalem and rebuilt the temple and built their lives and planted trees and gardens. Life finds a way. But not all of them returned. Some stayed, married, had children, learned of other gods. Life finds a way. We're a lot like trees, aren't we? Susceptible to winds of change and storms and the heartless actions of those in authority. Vulnerable to invasive species, for us, invasive species of lies and propaganda, fascism and all the other isms, social media, artificial intelligence, toxins in the air, toxins in the water, toxic people, viruses, disease, at risk of being cut down. Fortunately, the trees have us, like the book. The trees have us, the tree huggers, the tree climbers, the tree swingers, the tree planters, the lanternfly squashers, the educators, the scientists, to make sure that life finds a way for trees. And us, well, we have each other. We have community. We have hope that life will indeed find a way together. I went to a show last night. I hadn't come up with an ending for this message yet, and the show gave me the ending for the message. It featured the songs of Joan Baez and Joni Mitchell. And the evening ended with these words, and I will close with them too. You're gonna join us. Elaine's gonna play for us. 169 in the songbook, first verse only. 169. I'll not tell you what it is. You can look and see. And you'll say, ah. May this be the song of the trees. May this be the song of our hearts. May it be so. Amen.
One purpose of the church is to encourage all who gather to grow more generous in spirit and in action. We will now gratefully receive an offering to sustain this self-supporting church and its ministries within and beyond our walls. If you're watching online, we hope you will consider making an offering through our webpage, uushenandoah.org. If you're visiting, feel free to let the basket pass. Your presence is our gift. Thank you to all the volunteers who help make our services possible. Without all of our volunteers contributing to this effort, our worship would not be possible. Most of all, thank you for being here. Also, if you have any questions for board members, they'll be available for questions after the service. Would any board members present please raise your hands? Not me. Also, please review the newsletter insert in your bulletin today for current announcements. And I know Liz has a spoken announcement.
Thank you, Dr. My friend Ann Lessman would have loved this sermon today. I'm so grateful for Reverend Leah's words. I'm Liz England. I'm president this year of the board of directors. I'm a mature white woman wearing a yellowish and red top. I've been attending UUA events, and they keep doing that, so I decided I'd try it too. I would have provided this announcement next week, but will be in balmy Wisconsin to celebrate my birthday and Thanksgiving. So first, I want to wish all a very happy Thanksgiving. In years spent working in Egypt and then Indonesia and in Hong Kong, it was the holiday I missed the most. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy to be here. As you may be aware, the UU Shenandoah Board is comprised of 7 members who work as volunteers to support the congregation and to sustain the extraordinary programming that we do here. The services we provide members and visitors, and the building and the property care, which is considerable. We welcome and appreciate very much the professional services of our minister, Reverend Lauren Levewood, who currently holds a 1-year, half-time contract position ending in June 2026. Reverend Lauren, whom you all know well, joins a list of UU ministers who've served us during my 20 years here at UU Shenandoah. Our church is amazing. It's truly amazing. The board volunteers represent a fraction of the volunteer work that is done by members and friends of this community. That work is carried out every single day and every single night to provide space and time and spiritual celebrations and experiences of great value to our members. I need to count the volunteers one day, but that wouldn't really be an adequate description of what we do. It's really the love and the respect and the intelligence and the money and the human strength of our volunteers that makes this community so special. I'm not going to belabor it, but it can't really be said often enough how much we appreciate our volunteers. Thank you. Our church is in pretty good shape. We have a healthy budget containing both general and reserve funds, and we have an endowment fund, thanks to the generosity of our members and the estates of former members. Also, we have professionally managed accounts that are managed by outstanding volunteers who are actually professionals too. Pete is our treasurer, Pete Serafin, and he, with the finance committee and others, will tell you that we need more money. And that, my friends, is true. As we grow, we also address the financial needs of that growth. We currently have over 130 members. They've signed the book and they've contributed financially. And visitors who come nearly every Sunday, and not to be forgotten, these beautiful children and their parents and their caretakers who join us on Sundays. We love them so much. The board is currently hard at work on many projects, and I want to spend 60, maybe 90 seconds summarizing that work for you. I do this for 2 reasons, so that you'll know both what those projects are, and that you will hopefully provide us with the essential input we need as we move forward. Here are 4 projects. I'm going to talk a little faster. Decisions on next year's minister and a right now needed youth faith development leader. Second, mission and vision statements for which the congregation has been patient and with which we can all move forward with more clarity and confidence. Hats off to board members Gina and Lena, who are leading the effort with their team, including Reverend Lauren, by the way, on this important effort. Third, social justice efforts in these chaotic times, both inside and as outreach tools. Hearty congratulations to SAJ, to Becky Rager, the chair, and to her entire team that are working inside our community and outside too. And fourth and finally, a variety of other issues that are addressed by Council on Ministry, led by Board Vice President Corey Barnes, who ain't here today. Finally, as you probably already know, if you read the minutes of our meetings that are succinctly gathered by Professor Dr. Calvin Allen, who is our secretary, our board meetings are open to member guests. We had 3 presentations by guest members and leaders at our October meeting. All were succinct, not too long, and valuable to our board operations. We needed the information they provided. You, all of you can join us. You probably won't, but you could. You can join us in person or on Zoom. Our next meeting will be on Tuesday, December 2nd. Changed because of the Thanksgiving holiday. Board members, please rise. You've already raised your hand. Now you're going to get to stand up. Board members, please rise and be recognized for your truly devoted and outstanding work this year. Gina Rezabak, Pete Serafin, Corey Barnes, Lena Hurt, Kim Holbrook, and John Kummer. Thanksgiving means giving thanks, and I give thanks to you all today for the privilege of serving as the president of the board of directors at UU Shenandoah 2025-26. Thank you.
From the website tinybuddha.com, the author is Joanne Raptis. Be like a tree, stay grounded, connect with your roots, turn over a new leaf, bend before you break. Enjoy your unique natural beauty. Keep growing.
Now, as Alice comes forward, let us all say together the words for extinguishing our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of our community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we meet again.